Oh yeah. Little energetic little number, huh? Woo! Come on, who's with me? Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4. What's going on? Makes me want to just move like that. I can't help it. What's going on, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here. Welcome back to Groovy Thursdays. This one's a fun one this week. We're groove number 44. Wow. The year's going by, getting into November now. It's crazy. Groove number 44. The song is Judas Unrepentant from the English Electric record. Actually, English Electric Full Power from my band, Big Big Train. This song has been requested by a number of you fine folks out there, and I really do appreciate that very much. This song is pretty special in a number of ways. A, it's really fun to play. B, it's got a great storyline, which it's really unique, I think. It's difficult. It's not that easy to play. We've played it live a number of times with the band, and it's always a crowd pleaser. People really dig this tune. There's a lot of really great things about it. The band is killing. I think everybody in the band was playing their keisters off. The keisters, that's the back end. The butts, they're playing their butts off on this tune, which is really fun to hear. And I can always go back to it and enjoy the recording for sure. Now, when this song was recorded, when we made the initial backing tracks, the drum tracks, the basics, the bass and the drums and that kind of thing, for this tune, this was back in the days when I was recording the drums at Rob Aubrey's studio, Obbit Studios in Southampton. And I would show up at the studio, the guys would bring the demos in, they were very raw. They just kind of had ideas of the grooves in their brain. Greg would give me that's the sound he does with his mouth. I'm thinking of this kind of going, that kind of stuff. I'd have to kind of decode that into a drum groove. Love you, Greg. And so I don't really know what I did. This is probably one of those things where I recorded maybe 5, 6, 7 takes. We would do the song in chunks. And then after I recorded everything, a cohesive part was comped together. So it's not like composing a part from scratch, figuring it out, learning it, and then going and recording it. This is kind of making it up as we go. And it was one of those things where you kind of tried to grab the magic, you know, whatever was inspiring me at the time, I would go for, and the guys would like get excited. Yeah, that was the one. Then that's what we kept. It was that kind of thing. So it's a little bit harder to figure out and to recreate. That's the hardest part, is I can get close, but I can't do exactly what I did. I'm not really sure what my hands were doing. I know there's a lot of doubles and all kinds of stuff happening. So we're going to try to go through it. This one's going to be a little bit different. I may not be able to get too specific with exactly what I did, but we're going to go through the song and let's have some fun. Groove number 44, Judas Unrepentant. We're going to talk about this groove this week as a whole phrase, okay? It's not just 1 bar or 2 bars long. It's a whole phrase that goes from the beginning of the tune, from the very first snare drum crack, until the vocal starts. That whole length is what we're talking about here. It's just easier, I think, to explain it. There's things that repeat. There's time signatures and stuff that repeat. So I think it's easier to feel if you think about it as a whole section. The first thing we're going to do is talk through the time signatures of this whole section. I think it makes it a little bit easier so you can hear what's repeating, what's going on. So I'm going to play the tune and just speak out the time signatures. So let's do it. Here we go. This is from the very first snare crack at the top of the tune. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Man, that break at the end of the phrase just spins my head around. Oh my gosh, I think it's one of the hardest bits. The empty space for me is really the hardest part. It always has been. It's really long and just strange. But the section where the actual music is happening, there's a lot of repeating stuff going on. So even though it's difficult, there's a lot of stuff happening. Could you tell what's going on? It's 6 and 5, 6 and 7, 6 and 5, 6 and 7. Repeating just like that. That's the whole phrase with that crazy break at the end. Let's do it one more time. Here we go. Again, from the very first crack. You with me? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Yeah. A break of 10 beats, or 2 bars of 5. Just, typical prog stuff, but so cool. And when it's done right, when we've nailed it as a band, it's very satisfying. I will tell you that much. This is going to be a really convoluted way to explain this. So stick with me if you can. We're going to break this into chunks. Okay, this is the best way I know how to explain this because, again, I'm not sure what I did. I'm listening back, and now I can hear the patterns, and hopefully I can explain the patterns to you out there. First chunk is this. Boom, doom, ga, doom, 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 ga, doom, 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 ga, doom. Here, listen one more time. Okay, that's going to repeat the second time around. If you think of it this way, you're going to play that little pattern, and then there's going to be a 3-beat interlude, and then that thing repeats again. Follow me here. Boom, boom, ba, boom, 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 ba, boom, boom, go 1, 2, 3, 1, boom, ba, boom, 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 ba, boom, 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 da, boom. See, I'm trying to figure out a way to explain this because, again, I was just making this off the cuff. I'm going to say that a lot, and I apologize. But here we go. One more time. See if you can follow with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now, the second time around, instead of a 3-beat interlude, it's going to be a 4-beat interlude. And what happens here is pretty cool. I mean, I didn't plan this, but it worked out pretty cool. This 4-beat interlude, the second time around, starts on the snare drum. I think that was just kind of a happy accident. Check it out. Here we go. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom, ba, boom, 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 ba, boom, boom, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the second half of the phrase starts right there. One more time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm really happy that kind of came out that way. So now, if you can get this, the second half is just slightly different, but it repeats as well. In the first half, I played the snare on 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 on those upbeats. In the second half of the phrase, I only do that the first time around, then the snare goes back to playing on downbeats. Let me count it out while we're listening to the groove here. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's not that this is any easier than the first half. It's just that there's repeating things happening. So if you're going to try to play to this song and play my part, which I'm honored if you do, really, know that there's repeating things that are happening in the two sections, in the two phrases, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier to kind of get into your own hands and feet and then make it your own from there. Again, this is a made-up part, so if you tweak it a little bit and play a snare on the and in this bar and the downbeat on that bar, and as long as it grooves, I think it's okay. Another thing to think about, though, if you're going to do that, is to talk about the bass part. Back in these days, it doesn't happen as much now because we write differently now than we did back then. But back in those days, I would make up these drum parts, and Greg Spotton would come up with bass parts to match my drum parts. Sort of like a bass backwards kind of way of doing it, but it's so musical and so really cool. It just makes it hard to replicate and to play it live. So I'd play these drum parts, and then he'd go home or back in the studio and kind of listen for where the accents were and come up with his bass parts to match those accents. So there's a lot of really cool, funky bass parts that are locking in with the drum parts, and this is a great example of that. As far as the other stuff happening in between the accents, to be honest, it's really just filler and stuff that I do naturally, and I'm not really thinking about it. I'm not sure what's going on there. I hear doubles, and there's definitely single strokes and stuff happening in between the accents, but my hands are moving naturally. Now, if you check out the transcription, I did my best to write out those in-between parts. Look at the smaller notes. I'll leave a PDF of this whole phrase so you can download it and check it out and look at it closely. So the bigger notes are going to be all the accented parts. The little tinier ones will be the in-between stuff. Hopefully it will help you kind of see what's going on. And a lot of it is a natural movement, especially for me, that thing where I go right and then two lefts. You know, think of it as an inverted paradiddle sometimes, right, left, right, that kind of thing, instead of right, left, right. That's a normal paradiddle. An inverted one where I do the double immediately after the right stroke, right, left. To me, that happens without even thinking about it. And sometimes I have to hold myself back from doing it. But that's happening a lot in this phrase, in this groove here. So again, check out the PDF, check out the transcription, and hopefully that'll clarify some things for you. And there you go, groove number 44 in our Groovy Thursdays hang. Yeah, it's a difficult one, but you guys suggested it. You made me do it. You made me do this one, and I'm thankful you did. I really am. It is a song that is near and dear to my heart because it's been around for a long time, and we've played it live as a band a bunch of times. It reminds me of David Longdon for sure, and it's just really fun to play. It is proggy. It's got a lot of stuff going on, but when you hear, like with a lot of these difficult passages and the difficult grooves that I've done a lot in Groovy Thursdays throughout the weeks here, take things in little slices, little chunks, and see if you can just kind of figure out those little bits and then just slowly add to it. Before you know it, the whole thing will come together. And I hope you dug this week's groove. If you like what's going on here at Groovy Thursdays, ask that you like this video, share it with all your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Bring on comments and suggestions for future grooves. We'll see if they're going to be any harder than this one. I'm sure there are some really difficult ones out there. Join me again next week, everybody, for groove number 45. 45. I can't believe we made it this far. We're into November. It's fall outside. It's time for making music. Let's do it. We'll see you next week, everybody. Cheers.